Hey folks, this is Chris with Kentucky Outdoors and Reloading. We're back for probably our last video that we're going to do in the reloading series for the 222 Remington, or the how-to series anyway. I'm sure I'll be back from time to time in and out of the reloading room working on some different loads for the 222. Obviously, we're probably not going to be as in-depth from here on out in any reloading series. I've tried to make this so a beginner or a newcomer to the reloading sport could pick up some tips and tricks and how-tos, and hopefully help them out on their journey. So today we're going to be seating the bullets in our cases that we have ready to go, and I'm going to show you how I find the lands in the rifle. We're going to turn around here in a moment and look at some tools we've got laid out over here that we're going to do that with, and we're going to go from there. So if you guys will hang tight as usual, I'm going to spin you around and reposition the camera so we'll get you a better view of the tools that we've got laid out over here for you, and we'll take a look at what we got going on. Hold tight. All right, guys, we're back, and I've got you looking at some of the tools we're going to be using today. As you notice, starting out over here on the right hand side, we've got our notebook back out, so we want to be taking some notes. As usual, we want to write things down. We want to be able to go back and duplicate what we're finding for our bullet seating depth and finding our lands. And if things work out with this particular bullet, we want to be able to go back and duplicate this load. So we want to make sure we take our notes. I already have notes on the Hornady bullet and the Nosler Varmageddon bullet. I already have those written down. I do not have anything on the Sierra bullet yet, so that's what we're going to check with today. Get our measurements to the lands with this Sierra bullet. We're going to use the Hornady lock and load, little modified case here. And let's see if I can open this here. I'm trying to reach around the camera and do some of this stuff makes it a little more aggravating than if you didn't have the camera in the way. But it looks just like and it is just a regular piece of brass. But where your primer would be at, this is drilled and tapped and has threads down in it. This is drilled and tapped to be able to fit onto this tool here. And that's what we're going to look at here next. This is the Hornady lock and load straight overall length gauge. They also make one that is curved for your semi-auto rifles, specifically more like for the AR-15. But this straight one works great for your bolt action rifles because you can just go take your bolt out and slide it straight up into the action and into your chamber. And you can see here, this is where your modified case would thread onto the end of the tool. And then our calipers. We've got our calipers with the Hornady gauge here on it. And this has the bullet comparator on it. And this is the 2-22. This is what we need for our 22 caliber bullets. That's what the 222 shoots, is a 22 caliber or .224 diameter. And what that does is, once we have, I don't even have this open yet. Well, let me get another bullet or a loaded round here, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Hold on just a second. Okay, we're back here, and I've got this bullet or this cartridge we'll look at for comparison of what I'm talking about with the little Hornady gauge here. This is a 243 loaded with an 87 grain VMAX. And that little Hornady tool is going to measure from your ogive. This angled part of your bullet on the front here is your ogive. And it's going to rest on a certain place on the ogive, and you'll get it measured from your ogive to the base of your cartridge. That is a much more consistent reading that you'll get than measuring from the overall length from the tip of your bullet to the base of your cartridge, because these tips can vary. It is good to know that overall length, for especially if you're trying to get that length to feed from a magazine in your rifle. You will need to know that measurement, because you don't want that too long. It obviously won't fit in the magazine, for one, and it's not going to feed properly from the magazine. You're going to have problems of it jamming up on you and hanging up. But we're going to try to concentrate today on measuring from the ogive to the base of the cartridge. And what that does, or what that looks like, you'll slide your bullet up or your cartridge up in there. The bullet end goes into the Hornady tool. This will rest against your jaw of your caliper. You're just going to kind of get that seated in there square. You might have to give it a little spin. And again, we're not putting a lot of tension on this. We just want to go up and touch. Don't have to put a lot of pressure on it. So like that is reading 2 inches, 267.5. Now this is not the correct comparator for the 243. Like I said, this is for the 222. So that's just to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing there with that. So calipers return to 0, so that's good. All right, let me set these down and let me open this tool. Now I will show you what we're going to do with this guy in this modified case. Okay. Modified case is going to thread on the end of this overall length gauge. And we want to thread it all the way up on there till it bottoms out, till it runs right up on that shoulder there. Then you've got this little gray rod that slides in the tool. And you can see that we've got this little, I don't know if you want to call it the plunger end, but then it's also cut out here for your calipers to fit down in. Okay. And what we're going to do there is we're going to measure like this. Okay. And when we put a bullet down into the case, we can take this gray rod and we can push that bullet out as far as we need to till we hit the lens. So let me get this box of bullets opened and turn you around here and let you take a look at the rifle. We'll have the bolt already out of it. I don't think I can actually show taking stuff in and out of the gun. I'm afraid YouTube may consider that me doing something to the gun, so I don't want to get in trouble for that. But I will already have the bolt out of the gun, so you will need your bolt out to get this measurement. And let me get that out and get this box of bullets open and get you turned around, and we'll come right back. Hang tight. All right, guys, we're back, and I've got you turned around looking at the rifle. We do have our bolt removed. We've got our tool here. We have the modified case threaded onto the overall length tool. We have our little Sierra Match King bullet here. It's a little video thing in it. So what we're going to do is you just place that down into the opening of the modified case. That will slide back and forth, and then you can take the little gray rod here and you can actually push that bullet out more if you want to, and then you can push it back in, out. So what we'll do is I'm going to put that up into that modified case some, so I know it's plenty short. Then we're going to insert this into the chamber, and we want to, you don't want to force it in there. You don't want you don't want to make this little thing flex and bend or anything, but you want to put it into the chamber. And then once you feel like you have it seated in there properly, you're going to take the gray rod, the little plunger. Then you're going to push your bullet out until you feel it stop. It's contacting the lens. So at that point, you're going to want to lock that little threaded thumb screw, set screw thing here down. I don't know really what you call that, but you're going to lock that guy down. You're going to pull your tool back out of the chamber. The bullet may stick into the lens. Excuse me. What you don't see off camera is I do have a carbon fiber cleaning rod inserted in through the barrel to knock the bullet back out. And some people's going to think, "Oh my goodness, you shouldn't do that. You're going to mess your crown up on your barrel." You do need to be careful doing that. You need to take extra care putting that in and using that in that manner, because you do not want to mess your crown up. But I feel comfortable and confident in doing that. I'm okay with doing it. So that's how I do it. You have to determine if that's what you want to do and how you want to do it. So again, I'm just showing you how I do it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and try to get this guy up into the chamber. I'm trying to work around. There's like this little plunger thing that the bolt rides on. Okay, so I could feel that case go up into the chamber, and I have stopped right there, and I'm putting just a little bit of pressure back here. It's stopped. I'll make sure that's loose. Now I can run this bolt out. Or the plunger out, pushing that bullet out into the lens. It's stopped right there, so I'm just barely putting pressure against this, just more or less touching it to hold that bullet there. I'm going to tighten my little set screw down. Now I'm going to pull this back out, and the bullet did stay, so that's good. And now you'll notice that the bullet cannot move back in, and I can even take that out if I want to, because it's resting on that little gray plunger. So that is where this bullet is sitting at, touching the lens. Now we're going to get our little calipers here with our Hornady gauge on it. I'm going to turn this around this way. We're going to measure across this guy, and I'm getting, I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't feel like I'm 1 inch 835. So now what I would do is I would probably do that 3, 4, 5 times, write down each one of those numbers, then take an average of that, and that's what I would call my touch point, or my bullet touching the lens. Then I can determine if I want to back this off 5 thousandths from the lens, 10 thousandths, 25 thousandths. So I also want to check my magazine length and see if this will fit in the magazine. I have a hard time single feeding this gun. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the way the action is made, but it seems like I just have an easier time just loading it in the magazine and feeding it from the magazine. So that's probably what I'll continue to do. So we're also going to check this length and make sure that it will fit in our magazine. So let me take this little tool off here. I will have to re-zero my calipers, and we'll get an overall length from the tip of the bullet. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. 2 inches 177. And I would probably also do that several times, you know, the 3, 4, 5 times, write those down and take an average of that as well. So let me pause this real quick. I'm gonna write these numbers down. I'm gonna do this a few more times. You guys don't need to watch me do that. We've already got enough long videos. We don't need to make this any longer than we need to. So let me pause the video real quick, get these other measurements, and then I'm gonna get them wrote down and we'll go from there. Hold tight. Okay guys, I want to bring one other thing to your attention. This is kind of an old school method, and this is how I learned to check for my lens. I still do it from time to time just to kind of double check that Hornady overall length gauge, see if there's a big discrepancy one way or the other, or if I'm pretty close. But you can take a piece of brass, and I use like a little Dremel tool with a little thin abrasive cutoff wheel on the Dremel tool, and cut you a little slot in the neck of your brass. And I have one on each side. I don't know if you can see that any better, like that. Right there, you can see that slot. That allows you to take your bullet and place it long. Then you can put it into your chamber. When you close the bolt, that will force the bullet against the lens and push it up into your case. Your case still has enough tension on it that it will hold on to the bullet. Then when you remove this from your chamber, you want to be careful opening the bolt because you don't want this to fling out of there. You have to be very careful doing this because you don't want to take a chance on pushing it, hitting it on anything or bumping against something and pushing it further up into the case. Then you can check with your Hornady gauge for your ogive measurement, or you can measure your overall length that way as well. Just a different way of doing it. There again, like I've said many times, there are many different ways to do things. You just got to find out what works for you, what you're comfortable with, and what works best for your style of reloading. So let's get turned right here and look at some of these measurements that we came up with. So hold tight. Okay, so I've got my notes here, and we're looking at what I've written down. And my overall length from the base of the case to the very tip of the bullet, we're looking at 2 inches 177 overall length, and that's touching the lens. Our cartridge base to ogive, that's the back of your case, to that ogive measurement with that Hornady tool, we came out with 1 inch 837 thousandths, 1.837. So, and that is to the lens. You want to make sure you write that on your notes so you know where you're at. So we're going to look at, let me look back through my notes because I have this wrote down. Magazine length is 2 inches 290 thousandths, 2 inch 0.290. So this 2.177 overall length, that is from the base of the cartridge to the tip of the bullet. That will fit in the magazine just fine, and it should feed from the magazine just fine. So we know if we want to seat that bullet out touching the lens, that we can still run that in our magazine. So we should be good there. So now we have to determine where we want to seat our bullet at. What depth do we want to stay at the lens? Do we want to back off 5 thousandths? I think used to back in the day, the idea was to stay as close to the lens as you could, and most people would run their bullets out to about 5 thousandths off the lens. I don't know if that's still a common practice or not. I still do that with my 22-250. I have it seated pretty long. I have that a 55 grain VMAX seated out till it's 5 thousandths off the lens. I don't know the measurement right off the top of my head, but I'd have to look. But anyway, what I done with that Hornady bullet, I had it setting, I think, at 25 thousandths off the lens. And let's see here. No, I started at 20 thousandths off the lens. So I think that's probably what we're going to do with the Sierra and the Nosler as well. I'm going to start there at 20 thousandths, just kind of look at the group, see what that looks like, and see if that tells me anything. If it shows some good promise that it's trying to group, we can always come back and play with our seat depth. We may have to seat it a little deeper, make our bullet a little shorter, or we may have to bring that bullet out, make our overall length just a little bit longer, get it closer to the lens. So I think I'm going to start at 20 thousandths, just like I done with the Hornady. And we are loading the Hornady back up, like we said, to confirm that it does shoot that group like we seen. So I do have my numbers here, my cartridge overall length and the ogive number at 20 thousandths off the lens. So we need to try to hit that. And then I need to do some calculations. I need to take these numbers that I had for this Sierra and subtract 0.020 off those. And that's going to be our number we want to seat our bullet at. So let me get this rifle out of the way. We'll get the press back on the bench and we'll get our bullet seating die set up and we'll get ready to seat some bullets. Hang tight. Okay guys, I want to jump in here just real quick and make a note for you guys, edit if you will, that that overall length measurement I got with that Sierra bullet with that Hornady overall length gauge was around 1 inch 838 or 837. I forget exactly what it was, but I noticed when I was doing that, working that gauge up into the action and getting that modified case into the chamber, I was having a hard time with that. There is a little plunger, a little tab that sticks out in the side of the action, and I don't know exactly what that is. I'm not familiar with an old rifle made like that. I don't know if when you open the action and pull the bolt back, that stops the bolt from coming all the way out. I was really having to fish that thing around there to try and miss that, and I just didn't feel comfortable with it. So when I had the camera off, I went back and remeasured that and felt more comfortable with that second measurement. And I totally forgot to mention that, but I want to break in right here and let you know why later in the video you're going to see a difference in that number. So if I was 1 inch 838, taking 20 thousandths off of that, I'm going to be 1 inch 818. So, but I end up in the video being at 1 inch 808. So the measurement that I ended up getting was 1 inch 828 or 827. So I was trying to shoot for 20 thousandths off that. So it's going to be 1 inch 808 or 1 inch 807. I think I ended up right there at the 0708. So I just wanted to make note of that so you guys were aware of that. That way, if you did notice that in the video, think, well, why in the world did he do that? I just wanted to jump in here and let you know that I went back and rechecked that. So let that be another little tip for you guys. If you're not sure about something don't seem right to you, something don't feel right, don't look right, go back and double check yourself. Doesn't hurt a thing. Might keep you from making a mistake or doing something that you wish you hadn't done or tearing your gun up or whatever. So always double check yourself. Just want to make you guys aware of that. So thank you and back to the video. All right, guys, we're back here. We've got the press back on the bench, and you can see we've got all of our items sitting out here in front of us that we're going to need to seat these bullets. We've got our charge cases here with our data wrote down on the little pieces of paper. We've got our Hornady box of bullets out here. That's what we're going to load first is the Hornadys. And we're looking for 50 grain Hornady saw point. We are looking at a ogive measurement of 1 inch 774. 1.774. 1 inch 774 thousandths. So this is our bullet seating die. This is our bushing, breech lock bushing for the lead press. We're going to go ahead and put our die in our bushing here. Just get that guy started. And I am going to get you a little bit closer to the press so you can see more of it and less of me. So you need to see more of what's going on with this. So hang tight just a second. Okay, I think you can see that pretty good now. So we put our seating die into our bushing. And if you're not using the bushing, you're going to just thread your lock ring up on there for the time being. And let's see. I'm going to get my bushing lined up for my press here. I'm going to turn that little guy around there. Now, your directions that come with your dies, we talked about looking at those and reading those carefully, make sure you understand those. Some of your directions are going to tell you that you can crimp with your seating die or not crimp. Now, with a bolt action rifle, I have never crimped a bullet into the case. I don't really think there's a need for it. I've never had an issue with my bullets moving in the case. Even feeding from a magazine, I've never had a problem with it. I don't run a real light neck tension against my bullet. I usually have I'd say somewhere around 3,000 neck tension on most of my rounds that I load. And like I said, I've never had a problem with that. So I think most of your information that you'll find with semi-autos like your AR-15s will tell you that you need to crimp. And I think that's just so the recoil of the gun or the way that cartridge loads into the chamber, you don't take a chance on it hitting something or a violent action of it moving into the chamber as it's loaded will push that bullet back. And I have talked to some people that say they don't crimp the bullet for their AR-15. So I think there again, that's just another thing that you probably have to figure out what works best for you and your loads and your rifle that you're shooting. And then I have read on some of the forums that there are some people who do like to crimp their bolt action rifle cases. Now, that I'm talking like the 222 Remington here or 223. I do not crimp on my 30-06. I won't say I've got some hot loads, but I do have a stout load worked up for that 30-06. Now, I don't know about Magnum cartridges. I've never shot a Magnum rifle like a 7 rim mag or a 300 Weatherby or a 300 Win Mag or anything like that. I've never shot one. I've never loaded for one. So I'm not familiar with those, so I can't speak on that. So that's something that you will need to research yourself if that's something that you're looking at doing. But for today's purposes, what we're doing here, we will not be crimping. So what your instructions are going to tell you to do is to have a loaded round in here, or I'm sorry, not a loaded round, but a case that you have prepared. You're going to run it up all the way up. Then you're going to run your die down until you feel it touch that case. Right there, I can feel it touching. That is the crimp feature that you're feeling in your die right there. So now what we want to do is back this die up one full turn. And you can probably even go just a little bit more than that if you want to. You can probably go a turn and a half if you want to. I don't think it'd hurt anything. You just have to have more adjustment when you go to start seating your bullet. But most of your instructions are going to tell you to back that off one full turn. You should be safe there. So I can see the writing here on the side of the die, so I'm just going to turn it back around right there is one full turn. I think that'll be good enough for us. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tighten my little lock ring here. Good and snug. It don't have to be torqued down. It's not going to go anywhere. That's locked down. Can't move now. Now you have this little nut on top here that is threaded onto this stem. You want to loosen this nut. Then you want to back this stem up. What this does is backing that seating stem inside your die. It's backing it up, so it's getting it out of the way, and we can start with our first round that we want to load. We need to make sure we put this back and put it in its right spot. Okay, so we're starting with the 50 grain Hornady here. And let me tell you what, this is a tiny little bullet, and it's hard to hold on to. And it is I dropped it. I believe you could see that. It's a flat base bullet. The base of that's flat. Usually those will have a little bolt tail on it. They're a little bit easier to load in there. That bolt tail will help set. And these guys do not like to sit on there. Now I don't feel nothing there. Okay, so I didn't really feel anything there, and I'm going to screw this down until I feel that stem contact that bullet. Now I'm going to leave this nut loose for the time being. We're going to lower our ram. We can see we have that bullet seated right now. And I'm guessing that that bullet is probably barely in there the way that looks. So if I take one and kind of hold it up here beside it, I don't know if you can see that or not. Like that bullet is barely in there. I'm going to reach behind the camera here. I'm going to grab our calipers with our Hornady comparator. And I'm going to try to look at getting us a measurement. So right now we're at 1 inch 957 and a half. 1 inch 957. And we are looking for 1 inch 774. So we got a ways to go. So I'm going to turn this a half a turn and see what we got. And then I'm going to measure it again. Looks like we're at 1 inch 930. So we did move a little bit, not a lot. So I turned it a half a turn that time. I'm going to go a full turn this time. There's a half. There's a full turn. We should see something right there. I could feel it move just a little bit more that time. That half turn, you couldn't really feel much. We're going to check this. One inch 896. 1 inch 895 and a half. So we're moving. We'll go another full turn. See what we get. One inch 860. Okay. We're looking for 1 inch 774. I'm gonna go another full turn. Come down and hit my lock nut there, so We're 1" 8/24. So now we're getting a little closer. I'm going to back this lock nut up just a little bit. Now I'm going to turn it half a turn. See what we got. One inch 8/08. Go another half turn. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We're 1" 7/90. I think you guys can see that. 1" 7/90. Okay. Now I'm going to go maybe a quarter of a turn. One inch 7/80. Probably gonna go eighth of a turn. And I know this seems like it's painstaking and it's slow. 1 inch 7/74. Dead on, guys. That's what we're looking for. Now we can take that round, run it back up in there, so that holds that seating stem in place, and we're going to run our little nut down against the die, and we're going to give that just a little snug right there, and it don't need much. Okay. And there's our loaded round with the 50 grain Hornady. You can see a little ring around that where I had it in that comparator where I was spinning it. But that is your finished product right there. You've got your brass that you full length resized and chamfered and deburred. We put our primer in there, put our powder inside. We measured and checked for our lands. Now we've seated the bullet. This is ready to go to the range and fire and see what we've got. So put this back over here with the Hornadies. I think I'm going to go ahead and knock most of these out off cameras. That way the video's not super long again. And I'll bring you back for the last couple or something there. Maybe when we get back to those Sierras. And that way you can see what we had going on with those, since that's what we were talking about in the beginning and what we measured with for the lands. And let you see that. But I'm going to go ahead and get most of these knocked out, so that way it doesn't take so long. So be right back with you. All right, guys, we're back with the last few here. I've got all the Hornady 50 grain soft points loaded up. I've got the Nosler 55 grain Varmageddon loaded up. And I have most of our Sierra 52 grain Match King hollow point boat tail loaded up. I've got just a few left here, and I was going to bring you back and just bring you along for the ride here. And you can tell that that bullet has a nice little boat tail on it. Makes it a little bit easier to set in the case. You want to make sure you try to get your bullet sitting in there as straight as you can. Sometimes with the flat base bullets, you have to kind of help hold it in there and guide it up as you go. With these boat tails, it makes it a little bit nicer. They sit in there a little bit more square, more straight. We'll run it up until she stops. I like to spin my case about 180 degrees. Just hit it again. I was taught to do that a long time ago. Just supposed to help with concentricity. Make sure your bullet is seated in there good and concentric. I'm shooting for 1.808 and I'm at 1.807. I'm not going to worry about that thousandths. That bullet might vary that much. You never know. So we're going to let her. They've all been running there 1 inch 808, 1 inch 807. And that guy, there we go. Sorry, I just reached right in front of the camera and didn't even mean to do that. I'm not used to having to watch for the camera doing this kind of stuff still today. So, that guy ain't sitting in there very good. And that's our last one, guys. That is our last loaded round. 1 inch 807. So we're still good. All right. So that should do it. There's our Sierra bullet loaded in there. Dropped him down on the reloading tray here. There's our Hornady bullet. And then there's that Nosler of Armageddon bullet. And I just bet that guy right there would be bad news on old coyote. I say any of them would be, but I don't know. That little Armageddon looks like bad news to me. Kind of reminds me of the VMAX somewhat. But I think that's going to do it. Let me bring you back up top and we'll close this thing out. Hang on, guys. Okay, guys, I think we're going to close this reloading series out. Hopefully, next weekend I can get out to the range. We can shoot these and see what we came up with on our hand loads. See how well they work out for us. I'm excited to get out there and try them out again. I'm excited to see if we can duplicate that 50 grain Hornady soft point bullet again, that group again, and excited to see what these new bullets will do for us too. I almost kind of wish I had see if those Noslers maybe just a little bit deeper. Seems like when I was researching my 30-06, loaded some Nosler AccuBonds, which I know these are of Armageddon. They're not an AccuBond, but a lot of the research that I came across suggested loading that AccuBond deeper than you normally would. I forget exactly where I ended up with that, but a lot deeper than where I normally see the bullet. And excuse me, shot pretty good out of that 30-06. It was well under an inch. I want to think I averaged about 3/4 of an inch group, which I'm fine with that. I'm shooting at deer, whitetail deer, 100 yards, maybe 150 yards. So where I hunt at around here, that you're just not going to shoot much further than that. I know there are some places that you can, but where I hunt at, you don't. Anyway, we'll see what they do there at that seating depth, and we can always go back and seat them a little deeper, and we can seat them a little longer, whatever we want to do. So to me, that's part of the fun and the joy of reloading and just trying things out, experimenting, see what works, what doesn't work, what you may want to do and what you like, the rifle may not like. So you kind of, a rifle, they all have their own little personalities. So you have to find what that rifle likes. It's powder and bullet combination. So, and to me, that's the fun of it all. Just trying to figure out and just learn what that rifle can do for you. So I think I've rattled on enough. Next week we'll try to get out the range and shoot these. I hope, especially you new people who may be thinking about getting into reloading or have just got started, I hope you have found some useful information out of all this. I know there's been a handful of these videos that have been a little long, but I appreciate you stopping by, watching them. And again, if you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section. I will try and answer them for you. And if I can't, I'm sure there are other people on there who will who would be happy to try and help you out as well. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate all of it that you do, and the comments that I've been getting. Really appreciate it. So we'll see you on the next one. Thank you. God bless.